So I jumped right into both things at the same time, and it's been as big an adjustment to being retired and having all this extra time as the cultural thing. Gone back and forth to Cebu a few times, but I eventually crossed it off my list. Those are the what I call the mid-sized cities, big enough to have good hospitals, doctors, taxis. Dumaguete gets a lot of pub from the vloggers, but they don't even have.
All right, good afternoon, sir. Can you
Hey, Derek.
can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Yeah, I'm Steve Wilson from the USA, Boston area, born and raised. Moved around a lot.
And how old are you, Steve?
I'm 68. You're going to make me put that down for the record, huh?
And what inspired you to come to the Philippines? What brought you out here?
Well, I had I had a good career going in my younger days and through my 40s, and then my 50s were a complete disaster: divorce, depression, bankruptcy, big stretches without income. I thought I was going to have to work the rest of my life, and my son, I always used YouTube for do-it-yourself projects and stuff, but my younger son, turned me on to it for entertainment, and I saw this video for retiring in low cost of living countries, and I go, "That's me," because I had done something similar in my 30s. I sold my house and car in my mid 30s, moved to Mexico. I was still single at the time, so you can do that kind of stuff. Can I use other words and stuff, or will YouTube?
And how long have you been out here, Steve?
I've been here a little over a year and a half now.
And compared to your expectations, how has it been so far?
I love it. So I knew I would. Now it has been a little more expensive than I thought. I'm into health and fitness and eating healthy, and you just go to the supermarket and things are more expensive than back home. A little head of broccoli costs like what a serving of steak would. If you're so I'm adjusting to that. Rents are a little higher, but I've been staying in nicer condos. But I was in Iloilo for 14 months and living in Mega World, which is the nicer area. So you pay for location. So those have been the spending has been a little higher.
Would you mind sharing approximately how much you spend every month?
Well, I'm over budget every month. My savings has gone down, but a lot of that has been helping people. So if you cut that out, I'm probably in the mid 2000s. So that's ballpark.
Before you came to the Philippines, was there anything that you believed about the Philippines that turned out not to be true?
Not really. And again, I had lived in Mexico, a developing country. I knew I had to have patience, even though I'm not the most patient guy, a typical American. But when I have the expectation that I need to be this way, I turn it on, except for walking across the street when the cars get a little too close. Other than that, I've been able to adjust to things, and there've been no real big surprises.
And compared to Mexico, compared to the other places that you've lived, how does the Philippines compare?
Well, the neat thing is the English language. It's the second national language. People will speak better English as a second language than they will Tagalog, because all these local areas have their own language here. It's Iligainon, both in Iloilo and here in Bacolod. So that's been great.
There's not too many expats walking around here in Bacolod. Do you recommend Bacolod City for expats when they first come to the Philippines?
Yeah. I think. Well, I'm in this golfing group, and there's a big group of about 30 guys and a few of their wives on it, on the WhatsApp list. About 12 to 20 guys can show up on any given Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. So that's a big group and a lot bigger golfing group than I had in Iloilo. And in where I live in all residences, I'm always, passing, gringos and Westerners there. I haven't. I'm not big on Facebook. I'm kind of learning it. I'm sure there's some groups there. So I think there's enough there. You just gotta be a little aggressive in searching out the foreigners. And I do recommend making friends with Westerners here. When I lived in Mexico, I was learning the language, and my attitude there was, if I wanted to hang out with Americans, I would have stayed in America. So all my friends were Mexican, and I came here with the idea I'd learn the language and I'd make Filipino friends. But the economy's a little lower than in Mexico. Bless the people, but they're working so hard. They're working 6, 7 days a week, so they don't have a lot of time for you. So it's harder to make Filipino friends. So after a few months, I got invited to a lunch group in Iloilo and started making friends, and it really improved my life here.
How have you adjusted to the slower pace of life here in the Philippines?
Well, I'm a retired guy, so it's a big it's a big change for us, as much being retired as it is the culture. So it's two big changes: the cultural change, being in another country, and also, hey, now I'm retired. I retired May 3rd of 2024, and May 8th I was on a plane here. I didn't want to spend U.S. cost of living. I needed that money to go further here. So I jumped right into both things at the same time, and it's been as big an adjustment to being retired and having all this extra time as the cultural thing. But again, it was a little easier for me having lived a couple of years. I ended up 4 years in Mexico. I ended up getting married, moving to the States, and then I got a job that ended up moving me back to Mexico. Adjusting to the culture wasn't a big thing for me. It's been as much having all this time and adjusting to being retired.
And as far as traveling around the Philippines, have you been going to any of the tourist destinations here?
Not as much. The traveling I've done has been to the cities I might consider living in. The places like Boracay and the other famous Nido, the other famous tourist destinations I've been saving for when I have that special person in my life. And I'm getting close there. I've gone back and forth to Cebu a few times, but I eventually crossed it off my list. When I was living in Iloilo, I came to Bacolod several times, even before I committed to moving here. And Davao was always on my list. I haven't made it there yet. And then I was traveling around Panay, the island where Iloilo City is. But I didn't do as much traveling my first year. So my second year that I'm now in, I've committed to traveling more. But even that's got interrupted again, where I'm playing a lot more golf and it's expensive. So my travel budget's kind of shifted into my golf budget. But I'm going to get down to Davao and spend a week, but not a month like I had originally planned. So.
And I know that you're single. You've been through the divorce thing already. Are you looking for a Filipino partner? And how's that search been going? And what's your approach to finding a good partner for you?
Yeah, well, I'm a Christian guy, but we're all sinners, and there's a lot of opportunity here, and that's my weakness. So, but I came here wanting a partner, and that's what I want is to have one person in my life, and it fits more with my Christian morals. I'm not trying to be high and mighty, but there's a girl in my life now that I'm excited about, and think we can go the distance. So I'm heading in the right direction. So
I notice a lot of retirees here in the Philippines tend to look so much younger than the ones in America. What do you think attributes to that?
yeah, we touched on that. I think it's just the stress. kind of washes off you a little bit. And for me, I I have a couple of degrees. The U.S. economy can go up, but individual industries are up and down. I was laid off maybe 6 times, maybe one or two were firings, but so I never considered myself a worrier, but looking back, I was probably always worried about when that paycheck was going to end. And now I'm retired, I'm on a pension, mostly Social Security, and I've got a guaranteed income the rest of my life. So it's a wonderful feeling. I don't, there's going to be a check every month. It's good enough here. I would have probably had to keep working in the U.S. or if I retired, I don't want to disparage anyone, but I'd probably be in a mobile home park in Alabama and not have any money to fly back north to visit my sons and stuff. So it'd be really a subsistence living.
As far as the quality that you get here for your money, how much would the same quality cost you in America?
Well, like I said, I got a decent job, marketing job, product management at a professional wage, but not even six figures. And I was taking child support, and so half of my money was going to the kids and my ex-wife, and they deserve it. Guys bitch and moan about this stuff, but I love my ex-wife. I love my kids. I wish I could have given them more money, but my half of my take-home pay was going out the door to those obligations and credit card debt, and so I'm living in a less expensive apartment in the city in Little Binghamton, New York, and I'm living like a college kid. I had 3 cardboard boxes stacked up for my socks, underwear, and T-shirts, and I had a plastic dining room table and folding chairs. A big folding table was my desk. So, and now I'm living in Iloilo. I was in this great corner, 1 bedroom furnished, nicely furnished condo, big glass, 6 person dining room. It was a corner unit with wall to ceiling windows all the way around. I mean, and that was about 30,000 pesos a month, which was a great deal relative to the other prices in Iloilo and Mega World. They were more in the 45,000 a month range. So that's about a little over $500 a month. And now I'm in a nice studio for 300 to 400 a month in Bacolod. So it's furnished, not near as nice. It's not a 1 bedroom, but it's it's pretty nice living in a great location.
And you're attached to the mall now, right? You can go to the
Yeah,
mall
yeah.
without
That old
even.
residences is has a bridge right to the mall. Now the bridge comes in handy because that street in between us floods when there's a big rain. They don't have the drainage system so that we have in the states. So when the drains fill up, the water just runs down the street, and we're on the water's path to the port. So I heard about the flooding, and then a couple of weeks in, I just saw it raise right up. And even the main street, Laxon, main street runs right through Bacolod, flooded, and I saw it flood. I was trying to get a grab for a friend. We called the grab, and the street was wet, but it wasn't flooded. And in the 10 minutes we're waiting for the grab, we just saw the water rise up on the main street of Bacolod. And it turned into a rapids on that side street because all the water is flowing in there. So having that bridge over to the mall can come in handy. Never mind just rainy days and staying out of the sun.
What do you consider a better place for a retiree to live, Iloilo or Bacolod City?
They're it's kind of the, you can't tell someone what they're going to like because they're all a little different. I was focused in my research. I had 3 years to plan this thing because instead of retiring at 65, life got in the way and I was 67. I had 3 years or more to plan this, and I ended up focusing on the what I call the mid-sized city, something smaller than Cebu, which is the second biggest metro area and has the big city problems of traffic and pollution and some flooding and the cost of living's a little higher. The golf's more expensive and it takes longer to get through the traffic to get out to the provinces. My plan was to spend a month in Iloilo, a month in Davao. Then I eventually added Bacolod to the list. But I got to Iloilo and liked it, so I ended up staying. But those are the what I call the mid-sized cities, big enough to have good hospitals, doctors, taxis. You know, Dumaguete gets a lot of pub from the vloggers, but they don't even have taxis. They got a small mall. I think there's a 9-hole golf course that I never hear any of the vloggers talk about. And then if you watch the vloggers, you've heard some of the horror stories with the hospitals and doctors and things not getting diagnosed. So I had a hernia surgery in Iloilo, so I was comfortable having that surgery here, and it cost me $2,500 for everything. The deductible in the U.S. would have been over that, and it would have cost me $2,000 to fly there and back, and then the cost of living while I was there. So now, if I've had hip replacements, I wouldn't want to have that done here, and the cost out of pocket would be too much. But you know, these mid-sized cities have good hospitals, good doctors for a lot of things you would need. If you had an emergency, heart attack or stroke, you know, you'd get good care in the better private hospitals, and you got to scout those things out. But as far as living, you know, I would recommend you come and visit, and you stay you know, at least a month in these cities where you're considering living, and then try a few different areas and find what you like the best. Now that's a little bit of say, do what I say, not as I do. But you know, I liked Iloilo, and I could go back there, and I might. And now I'm checking out Bacolod, and I like it here. And I'm moving's a pain in the ass, so I'm in no hurry to move. But I'll check out Davao too.
And that was some pretty good advice. But the last question I was going to ask is, what would be your advice to foreigners coming to the Philippines?
Well, it is more expensive. You do need money. A lot of vlogs, you know, talking about $1,000, $1,200 a month, and even less. And you know, and living in the province. If you're out in the province, you know, there's there's not a lot there, and there's not a lot of foreigners there. So who are you going to hang out with? What are you going to do? Now, if you're in the states living on $1,200 a month, that sucks too. So I'm not saying don't come here, but if you can, save up a little money, and it's probably going to be a little more expensive than you plan, especially if you want to live life. I'm playing golf now, but it costs when you put everything in. It's, you know, taxis and umbrella girls and caddies. You have to get a caddy. Golf cart adds another 800-900 pesos, and then you're paying 2,000, 2,200 for green fees in Iloilo and Bacolod. You're probably paying double that in Cebu. So if you want to live life and do things and then travel when you're here, you're going to be, you know, 2,000 and up.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate you sitting down with me today. I thought it was great. And if you guys like this video, please leave a comment, like it, and subscribe. Thank you.
Take care, guys.